So well, Mikala, myself. Okay, we had a shaila yesterday. The following: the kohen gadol dies, and he shechted the par already. Can the other kohen bring that par in or not? Does he have to a new one or not? And that's what was the shaila. The shaila was: is damai considered a par, or a par? It's got to be a live par. That was the shaila. We saw it was the machloikas amaroyim between Chanina and Reish Lakish, and between Rav Ami and Rav Yitzchak Nafcha. So first we asked on the shita that held that it was if it's alive, it means it has to be alive and not dead. We asked a question from two places. We asked from Korban Pesach. We said the Korban Pesach right, it's only at shashchita, meaning it's only a seh until it's geshechted. But if it's shechted, it's not a seh anymore. We answered me'ois miseh. It's a special pasuk. It has to be a live seh. Then we went and asked from Petach Hamar. We put the Petach Hamar tifta b'seh. We said seh. It's got to be a live seh. We answered that. Well, we have a riboy of tifta. Now we're switching the tables. We're going to ask on the ones who say that it has to be alive. I'll show you that a par, even if it's not alive, is still considered a par. Okay. So now what the pasuk says, Esivei Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha. Now it says by the par, I think par Kohen Mashiach, it says V'hoitzi eskola par. Now, fellas, we're up to Nun Amid Aleph. We'd like to welcome everyone back who hasn't been here for a while. It's great. Hail, the gang's all here. Okay, and the schus of Mordechai being here, maybe the islanders be suchet to a win. Okay. Anyway, so guys, listen up. It says Yehotzi es hapar. Now what, guys? Vayikra Dalit is noted for the par Helam David. Listen, I'm going to say this now because I don't want to say it again. The par Helam David Shel Tzibor. Helam Davar, a matter of halacha is hidden from the Sanhedrin. They paskin, it's an Issachar, and Klal Yisrael acts upon that. They have to go ahead and bring a par. It's a unique par. You know what's unique about this par? It's not sprinkled on the Mizbeach HaChitzon. It's Mizbeach on the Mizbeach HaZov. In addition, it's burnt outside the Machna. The same Huadin, there's a par called Par Kohen HaMashiach. The Kohen Gadol also passes incorrectly. The same thing happens. It's describing this par of the Kohen Mashiach. And what does it say? V'hoitzias kol par. Where do you bring in the par? You bring it outside to be burnt. Obviously, it's dead already, guys. You're bringing out a par. Yeah, what are you calling it? You're calling it a par. So you see that's a par even after it's death. The riot from Yitzchak Namcha and Reish Lakish, right? It's still called a par despite the fact that it's dead. And for the Gemara, sheyotzias kula. Now, when it says a par, it doesn't mean that par. You bring out all the entities that are par. You know, you just broke it up. You took dam over here, you took a murim over there, you got a body over there, a carcass over there, a body and carcass, the same thing. Excuse me. And you put it all together and you take it outside. So it's like a conglomerate of things. Fred the Gemara Kash Vespara Chatas Veseira Chatas. The pasuk says by Yom it says by Yom Kippur Vespara Chatas Veseira Chatas and Rapapa V'or Ubasu perish. You're right. When it comes to a Ba'or, you're speaking about skin, you're speaking about basa, you're speaking about waste, fecal matter, waste. Everyone agrees that what it's called a par. Even Rab Chanina would hold it's called a par. When you're speaking about the whole thing, the question is when you're only doing the dam, is the dam itself called a par, guys? Got? When you're dealing with the whole thing, Hoitzias call, you're bringing out everything. Even though it's dead, it's still considered a par. Question, is dam itself considered a par? You know, if you only have the dam, is that considered a par? In other words, we're fine-tuning the question at the end. So we're saying, if it's the whole par, even though it's dead, it's a par. Ki pligi bedam. Masava, Reb Chanina, Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha holds dam ikri par. That a dam is called a par. Masava and Rav Ami holds dam lo ikri par. Now, l'chayra, you could have brought this raya earlier. This is an often a raya to the whole thing. Amar Avashi, guys, mistabra kimandama dam ikri par. It makes sense, like Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha, that dam is called a par. That just the blood itself is called a par. Dichsiv, bezois yavoy Aaron el hakodesh. This way, Aaron should come into the kodesh, guys. Aaron's walking into the kodesh. He's walking into the Kodesh Kedoshim. He's walking into the Heichel, and then he's going to the Kodesh Kedoshim. And what's he going to sprinkle? What's he going in with? Dam. Is he walking with an animal? No. But it's called what? Par. So what does it say? B'zois yavoy Aaron el hakodesh bepar ben bakar atu b'karnel ma'ilolei. He's not leading a par into the Kodshim. He's bringing what? The dam into the Kodshim. Yeah, what are we calling it? We're calling it a par. So you have an often a raya that what? that the dam is called a par, like Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha and like Reish Lakish. Ele b'damai v'kari le par. V'idach, what does Rav Ami and Rav Chanina do with this? With what is Aaron prepared to come to the Kodesh? Okay, so now, in other words, he says it's a more general statement. How should he come in? He's got to bring X, Y, and Z. He's got to bring a par, he's got to bring a sayer, but it's not describing the actual bringing in, but it's speaking about the animal itself. So it remains a machlokes between the two. It remains a machlokes whether dam is called a par, or whether only, or the whole animal is called a par, but not what, not dam alone. Okay, now how do we get into the shaila, guys? We got into the shaila the following: if a kohen gadol shechs a par, right? He brings shechs a par, dies. Does the other kohen gadol have to bring a new one? Until now, the whole question has been based upon whether it's called dam is called a par or not, right? Now there is a halacha l'moishmi Sinai we've mentioned quite a few times in share, but we'll continue to mention it. There are five chattas that die. Five chattas that die. It's a gezeres hakosov. Chattas shekipra ba'aleha. That, in other words, a person goes ahead, he has to bring a carbon chattas. He separates the carbon chattas. Good? He loses it. He goes ahead, brings another one, and lo and behold, the first one shows up. You got to let it starve to death. That's kipra ba'aleha, right? A tamura of a chattas dies. A lot of a chattas dies. Right? And the chata shemesa ba'aleha dies. In other words, if a person separates the carbon chatas, he's mechal Shabbos b'shoigeg, he has to bring carbon chatas. He separates the chatas, and consequently, he dies. That animal has to die. What happened over here? He's a kohen gadol. What did he do? He brought a chatas, right? The blood is here, ready to be sprinkled. He consequently died. What's the Gemara's kasha? Can another kohen bring it in? What's the kasha? It's a chatas shemesa ba'aleha. It's a chatas that the owner died. In other words, forget the Yom Kippur din, whether it's damay or par, forget that. On that, we have a lachol meshmi Sinai. Chatas shemesa ba'aleha lemisa azla. Goes to death. This guy's dead. It's a moot point. Get rid of the dummies. The new kohen's got to bring a new one. Fred the Gemara kasha. V'tepik lei the chatas shemesa ba'aleha. Let's go ahead and say the reason why he can't use the original koyens because he's dead.
This power also is for people.
Huh?
This power is
So what's your teretz?
This power is not only for
It's
for other power.
And for the Gemara, and for the Gemara, mentions teretz. The chatash shemesa b'leil misaz la amalei Rav baravada l'Rava ami talmidcha amar Rav Amram. Chatas tzibor. That's what you wanted to say. It's the chatas of a tzibor v'loi lemisa azla. And when do we say that? Allah mashmi sinai the chatas shmeis b'lah? That's of a yachid. But if it's of a tzibor, then what? Then we don't say that halacha. So therefore, the only shaila would be predicated upon whether dam is considered a par or not. But on that chatas shmeis b'lah would not apply since it's the chatas of a tzibor. That Allah mashmi sinai is stated by a yachid. Is stated by an individual. That nan. So what's the raya? Amalei remeya. Rabbi is speaking. We have the par of Yom Kippur, the chavite kohen gadol, and the chavitim of the kohen gadol that's brought every single day. Pesach and the korban Pesach, the korban yachid. Who the Gemara has a shaila over here about what's doicha Shabbos. Only the korban siba is doicha Shabbos, not the korban of a yachid. So now Rabbi is saying that no, I'll show you there is a carbon yachid that is like a Shabbos, right? The carbon of an individual that would go ahead and you do the shechita, and you burn it on Shabbos, right? Which are that, for example, Par Yom Kippurim. What's the kasha, guys? You just said it's carbon yachid, right? Right? You just said it's tzibor. Now it's mashmat yachid. The chaviti kohen gadol uPesach the carbon yachid b'derech Shabbos v'esatoma. Lav mechlal de ikalamanda amar de tzibur. So in other words, I'm just bringing you a raya that there's a manda amu holds that it's the tzibur. So we're asking the question like that the manema. Like Remeya Taka, Remeya wouldn't have the question about what? About the kohen being able to bring the original guy. Like Remeya that the Payam Kippur is the carbon yachid. Of course, he's got to bring a new carbon because it's Chata Shemesa Ba'aleha. Our shaila is based upon, obviously, Amaloi Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir is speaking to someone, correct? And what did Rabbi Meir say? The power of Yom Kippur is what? Is the carbon of a Yochid. Mechlal, it must be the one he's speaking to holds is a tzibur. So that would be the Manda Omar that what that our shaila is going according to.
Maybe because it says the Chippah Ba'azoi. So it's Al Semos, it's a carbon for him.
Well, hang in there. We're going to clear this whole Gemara is going to clear whether the power of Yom Kippur is a Yochid or a tzibur. You know, maybe said outright, but again, not so pashut. Then you're right. Let's see. So now, guys. So what do we prove? There's Manda Omar who holds that the power of a Yom Kippur is the Chatas of a tzibur. Like that Manda Omar, the rule of Chatas Shemesa Ba'aleha does not apply. It does not apply, and therefore we have a shaila. What happens if he dies? Does what? The new one have to bring what? A new one or not? Like that Mandi Amar. Well, the Taimech says the Gemara, I'll prove to you that what? That it can't be speaking like you think. The Ketani Amaloi Rabbi Yaakov, V'aloi Par Helam Davar Shel Tzibur, which I just explained to you, correct? Par Helam, right? The Siri Avodas Kechavim, the ser that's brought by the Tzibur if the Oiva Avodah Zara, the Chagiga, the carbon tzibur, good. Now you just told me a carte blanche rule that every yachid is not doicha, and Reb Meir retorted to that. Every tzibur is doicha. I'm just giving you a tzibur that's not. So I'm destroying your rule, correct? I'm destroying your rule. Again, you want to say that every carbon yachid is not doicha. You want to say every carbon tzibur is doicha. I just proved to you that what? That there's a carbon yachid that doesn't. I'm not proving to you there's a carbon tzibur that doesn't. And along the way, we're going to find out something about now. What was the, guys, look at me. What was the rule? Listen to the conversation. Amalei Reb Meir, I par Yom Kippur is a yachid. Nechlal that the Tanakama holds it's a tzibur, right? That was the proof. So now what is Reb Meir? Now Rabbi Yaakov is saying, but you have par helim davar, which is what? Which is a tzibur. Now he's speaking to somebody, right? So if your reference is correct, if your inference is correct, then that person he's speaking to must hold the par helam dava is what? Is a yachid? That can't be. In other words, I'll disprove your inference from clause B. You have clause A and clause B. Guys, look at me. You have clause A and clause B. Clause, again, what are we discussing? There's a rule by Yachid, there's a rule by Tzibur. Yachid's not Daicha, Tzibur is Daicha. Says Reb Meir, I'll disprove your rule. I'll give you Karbanos Yechidim that are Daicha. Just let's bring in one. Carbon Yom Kippur. So we wanted to bring a raya from that what? That there must be someone who holds that what? That the Par Yom Kippur is a Tzibur. Good. That can't be correct. Because look at the second clause. You hold that what? That every carbon Tzibur is Daicha. I'll bring you a carbon tzibur that's not par helam dava. Now, if your inference is correct in your conversation, that means there must be a man who holds par helam dava is what? The carbon of a yachid? Par helam dava, listen to the words. Par helam dava shel tzibur. It doesn't exist. So obviously your inference can't be a good inference. So Gemara, very, very geschmack, guys. Let's see. According to your reasoning that there is a band of Amuels that the power of Yom Kippur is that of a yachid, Diktani, Amalei Rabbi Yaakov. The Siri Avodas Kechavim, the Chagiga, the carbon tzibur, and vein doicha. It's not doicha loyes a Shabbos loyes a tuma. Now, the Yachid. There's a man who disagrees and says the Parhal Davar tzibur is that of a Yachid. Of course not. Ella, it must be the Tanakama Kamahadale. Right, they're answering the Tanakama. What are they answering? Listen to this, guys. The Shomei, they heard the Tanakama, the Gama that he said, Carbon Sibor Doiches Shabbos v'es Hatoma, the Carbon Yachid ain't a Doicha Loyes Shabbos Loyes Hatoma. But they weren't speaking specifically; they were speaking in rules. I got a rule about this one. You have a rule about this one. Reb Meir is asking about the rule of the Yachid, and Reb Yaakov is asking about the rule of the tzibur, but not to say that the power of Yom Kippur is the carbon of a tzibur. Amalei Reb Meir, carbon yachid, klalahu, that every carbon yachid is not doicha. V'lei par Yom Kippurim, v'chaviti koyin gadol, u'pesach the carbon yachid hu, v'doiches a Shabbos, v'es hatuma. V'amalei Reb Yaakov, Korban Siba Klalahu, is your rule about Korban Siba that every Korban Siba is Daicha? Valay Par Helen Davish Shel Tzibor, who Sriya Vedis Kechavim, Chagiga, the Korban Siba, who Vein Daicha, Leish Shabbos Leis Atoma. Elanakin High Klal Biyatcha. Take this cloud to the bank. Kol Shezmana Kavua, forget Yachid, forget it. Kol Shezmana Kavua, any carbon that has a set time to bring. Daicha Esa Shabbos Ves Atoma. Afilu Biyachid. Guys, Pesach. We just did the Korban Pesach, right? But it's Teicha, right? Aye. Well, we had a Shabbos, maybe the carbon of a tzibur, because it's brought the Chanufia. It's brought by a lot of people.
The Chagiga, right?
No, the Korban Pesach.
Yeah, the
Korban Pesach.
The Chagiga also, why is that a tzibur?
Which
The
Chagiga?
Chagiga is $2. That's fine. It's brought by every person has to bring up the Chagiga.
That's a Yachid.
Right, so why is it called a Korban tzibur over here?
Where?
Remember just said the Korban tzibur. So why is that? The head said a part of what did it say?
The Gemara is going to say. Gemara is Kasha. Very good. Now, the Chol Shein is Zman Kavua. Eina Doicha Loyas Shabbos Loyas Tuma. Va'afila B'tzibur. So, in other words, fellas, there really is no man the Omar that holds Kenzain that holds the power of Yom Kippur is what is a tzibur. You want to bring a raya, your raya is not a raya. That's all. Okay, guys. So we're holding by a kasha. We have a kasha. We have a kasha. What's the kasha? The kasha is why do you have to say par dam, the dam of a par, whether it's called a par or not? Why don't you say it's chatash shemesa ba'aleha? So we're answering that's the carbon of a tziba. Chatash shemesa ba'aleha, the carbon of a tziba. What is that would be daicha. So if the power of if the power of Yom Kippur is that of a tzibur, then it wouldn't we wouldn't use the rule of what of chatash shemesa ba'aleha. Eisvei abaya. Okay, again, we wanted to say that the power is of a tzibur, correct? We just disproved the raya, but we're saying it. You want to bring a raya, we disprove the raya, but yet we can make the statement, we don't have a raya to that statement, that the power of Yom Kippur is the carbon of a tzibur. It's mashma, it's the carbon of Aaron, right? Let's see. Guys, again, the key is the mission. What's the mission statement? We want to prove or disprove that the power of Yom Kippur is not the carbon of a tzibur. And then we have a problem with chatash shemesa ba'aleha. We want to ask the following. Par of the Soya Shoyam Kippurim, Sha'avdu, they got lost. The Hifish Acherim Tachtehem, and you separated others, and you brought the others. Guys, what is this? This is Chatas Shekipra Ba'aleha. Again, remember the 5. One of them is Chatas that the Baal already got the Kapara. Good? So the Seir of Yom Kippur, the Par of Yom Kippur, they lost both of them. You had a tough day, and now you go ahead, Rod, and you separate others. Guys, the key: you bring the others, and then you find the originals. If it's the carbon of a tzibur, what should it then be? They shouldn't die. Why? Because the rule of thumb is only by that of a yachid. So what does it say over here? Right? Kulam yamusu. They all die. What's the kasha? Why are they dying if it's the carbon of a tzibur? Ella must be the power of Yom Kippur is what? It's a yachid. That's the raya. Must be it's a yachid. Because again, look at the lashon. Par v'sar sheyom kippurim shavdu v'hiv v'shachrim tachteim kulam yamusu v'chein sira b'dis kechavim shavdu v'hiv v'shachrim tachteim kulam yamusu. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon Oimrim yiru ad sheyistavu. You wait till they get a mum. V'yimachru. You sell them. V'yiplu d'meim l'dava. And because she'ein chatas tzibur mesa. So in other words, you have a raya from Rabbi Elazar that it's a chatas of a tzibur. Amalei, they said to Rabbi Elazar, my par. What does par mean? Par helam davish shel tzibur. It doesn't mean the par of Yom Kippur. It means the par helam davish shel tzibur. Again, you want to prove that what? That the par, guys. Does it say Yom Kippur? Eisvei abaya, guys. Par v'seir shel Yom Kippurim. So what did you learn? You learned par and Seir of Yom Kippur. Par kama. What's that? Tzibur, right? V'seir Shem Kippurim she'avdu v'hiv shachrim tachteim kuli yimusu. Right, they have to die. So why is he dying? Why is he dying? My par of shel tzibur. I fed Gemara v'shel Yom Kippur katani ki katani ad the Seir. If you say it's going what on the Seir, it's going on the Seir. Now, Fred, it's a shver. Why does it have to die? Okay, can this more list these questions? For Tanya, Parshal Yom Kippurim, V'Seir Shal Yom Kippurim. Now you can't say par. It says openly, guys. It says openly. Parshal Yom Kippurim, V'Seir Shal Yom Kippurim Sha'avdu, that you separated the Hifish Acherim Tachteim Kulam Yemusu. Div Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon Oimim, Yirad Sheistova Yimach V'Yilch V'Meim Dava Shein Chatas Tziva Mesa. Go to Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Yehuda Shver. It's not shver, right? We don't pass the Rabbi Yehuda, right? So l'chayre, guys, you have a problem. You see over here it says Par Yom Kippur. We're saying that what that it's l'chayre. You have a raya that what it belongs to the tzibor when you row. So similar loy temish ein chatas tzibor mesa, el ema she'ein chatas hashutfin mesa. Really, Par Yom Kippur, guys, is what is a yachid. Par is a yachid, right? All right. So why over here is it not dying? Because it's the chatas that belongs to two people, right? Who are the two people? L'chayra, like Mendy said, it belongs to the kahanim and yeah. But you said it's a tzibur. This makes it shutfin. It's not the tzibur. Tzibur means all the Kal Yisrael, Mendy. Two people would be like Yechidim, own it. It's like a shutfis, right? That's a shutfis. So now you have a kasha, guys. Bottom line is, what do you gain by this teretz? To explain why, you can explain why it doesn't die. You could have explained it because it's the chatas of a tzibur, or you could have explained it that it's the chatas of a shutfin. Why did you gain by explaining the chatas of a shutfin versus the chatas of a tzibur? My nafkalamina, but who cares, right? Who cares? The bottom line is it doesn't die. Says Gemara, my nafkamina tayrachmina delay maisi kahanim par bohira. That since it's the kahanim will not bring this par bohira. Let's see Rashi in this. In your question, Vadei Amoida, the Mitard say, Bain Ikrichatas Tibor, Bain Ikrichatas Shutfin, it's not going to die. Vis-a-vis death, it's not dying. Take that to the bank. Rava didn't want to call it the carbon of a tzibor. Kadesh le'yomru at-talmidim, the talmidim should make a mistake. Shem hoire bezdin shel kahanim, lava alachas min ha-mitzvahs. Let's say the bezdin kahanim blow it. But also, now, the halacha is that parhelim dava is brought by tzibor. Also, there's a day in Hayrod, even one tribe is called a tzibor. So let's say Shevet Menashe would blow it. Let's say Shevet don't blow it, they'd also bring this carbon. Let's say the Shevet of Kahanim, of Levi would blow it. So that's what's coming. So Allah is mina mitzvah. So also Kahanim al PM. The Kahanim go ahead and act upon them. Shayu mevi parhelim dava ke'echem mikol shvatim. The Kaimlon Shevet echad ikri kal Kahanim. Father lo ikri kal. Elo oisan shenatnu nachla. So only the one that took a nachla, they would go ahead right and bring it. So the reason why we're calling it over here that of shutfin, that behayra, you should not expect them to go ahead and bring it. That they're not going to bring it. As Mashenkin, it was the parhel and davar. No, it doesn't mean if they don't have a shut. They don't have a nachal. Okay, it's Toshma. Back to the shaila. Is it the carbon seab or not? The boy Rebbe Lazar on the base. The divrei oimer pariyam kippurim carbon yachid. Like the one that says pariyam carbon is yachid. Oisa tamura or yein oisa tamura. Okay, fellas, there's a halacha of tamura at the end of Bechul Kaisai. It's asa to make something a tamura. What's a tamura? You take an existing carbon, you take an animal, you put it next to it, and say the kedusha should be on this one, should be switched to this one. Why is it asa to do? Says the Rambam in a very famous piece. Guy was mamish. He heard such a geschmacka shmooze in shul about donating to the Beis HaMikdash, and he was so motivated. So he took his prize bull, took his prize animal, and said, "Oh, you're a carbon." Wakes up the next morning and says, "Well, what did I do? What did I do?" So what does he want to do? He wants to take the kedusha off the bull and put it right on a shvachim one, right? Guess what? He loses both. They're both kaddish. So and it's an aveira. It's an aveira. You're not allowed to do it.
It works either way. Whether the one wants shvach or
Chal either way. A Tamura is even chal on a balmum. A Tamura is chal even even on a balmum that you can't even bring. And you can't bring as a carbon. Okay, so now we want to know if this is the carbon of a yachid. A tzibur can't make a Tamura, but if this is the carbon of a yachid, what's the din? Can it make a Tamura or not? Okay, so the divrei oimer pariyam kippurim carbon yachid. Oisa Tamura ain't oisa Tamura. So can it make a Tamura or not make a Tamura? Lav Michal Deikal Amand Amad Tziba is now what's the tzad that it can make a Tamura, guys? Why shouldn't you, if it's a carbon of Yachid, why shouldn't it be able to make a Tamura? Must be you hold it's not a carbon of Yachid. It must be right. Mine says Lav Michal Deikal Amand Amad Tziba. That's why like. In other words, Tamura can't be shutfin, can't make Tamura. Okay, so in other words, guys, there's two ways to view this par. Let's go through let's do what you can't do. The par of Yom Kippur, if you bring another one, it's not going to die. It's not going to die. You don't need it anymore. Either one or two reasons. Either one, it's the tzibur, or two, it's owned by shutfin. The shutfin would be the Kohen Gadol with his fellow Kahanim. Good? Those are two possibilities. A second halacha where we have these two possibilities is vis-a-vis the halacha of Tamura. If it's the carbon of a tzibur, it can't be a Tamura. If it's the carbon of a shutfis, it can't be Tamura. So therefore, since there's another possibility, we can't say over here, we want to be pushed to the Shaila. Can the Par Kohen Gadol make a Tamura or not? If it can make a Tamura, it's the carbon of Yachid. If it can't make a Tamura, it must be the carbon of a tzibur. Thus, we've proved there's a man the who holds it's a tzibur. No. The other side that it can't make a Tamura is because it's owned by Shutfin, not because it's owned by a tzibur. We've never established that there's a man the Omar who unequivocally holds that what? That there's a carbon of a tzibur. That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line. Got a lot of ideas tonight. There's a lot of ideas tonight. A lot of ideas tonight. Yes.
Everyone holds on a yachid, you could do Tamura?
Yes. Everyone holds on a yachid, you could do, yes. Everyone holds on a yachid, you could do Tamura, right.
And the both will become kaidis?
Yes.
Or you could
No, it doesn't lose its kedusha.
This power was bought by Kohen Gadol's own money. It's Hebrew money.
Again, no, it doesn't make a difference, Ben. But again, even if it's not of a tzibur, he's being it for. We'll see again. Okay. Anyway, says the Gemara. Gufa, boy, Rebbe Laza, the divrei oimer. So, guys, we weren't poishit the shaila at all, whether it's a power of a tzibur or not. We weren't. But we do know for sure that the possibility exists. It may be the carbon of shutfin. Good. Now we can just now go into. We brought in to be poishit that shaila. Now we're going to address Gufa, the din of Tamura itself. So again, one more time, guys. Given, here's a given. If an animal is owned by a yachid, and it's a carbon, it can make a Tamura. If it's owned by the tzibur, it can't make a Tamura. And if it's owned by partners, it can't make a Tamura. Good? Question. What is the power of Yom Kippur? Is it the power of the yachid, and it could make a Tamura? Or is it the power of shutfin, and it can't make a Tamura? That's the question on the end. Boy Rav Gufa, boy Rebbe Laza, l'divrei oimer par Yom Kippur, carbon yachid, oisa Tamura or ain't oisa Tamura? Says, my call me boy, what's your shaila? Ibasa magdash azlinon. If you go after the person who was magdashit, ibasa mischaper azlinon, or after you go after the mischaper. In other words, why would your shaila be? The person's magdashit and is the person mischaper. So in this case, who's the magdish? Who's the magdish? In this case, is the kohen, right? He's the owner. He's magdish. And if you go after the mischaper, the one who needs it, and so ibas the magdish is ibas mischaper azlinon. Now, pshita the bas mischaper azlinon. With pashit, you go after the mischaper. Guys, let's say the following. Guys, let's say Hilly needs a carbon. Dr. Hilly needs a carbon. I said, Hilly, I got this one. And I'm magdish it. Good? They want to be paid it. The halacha is the owner, when he's paid, has to add a fifth. Who's the owner here? So the Indian Kedusha, I'm the owner. Okay, now, the halacha is The Magdish can make a Tamura, or the Mischapa can make a Tamura. The Mischapa can make a Tamura. So I can't make the Tamura, but Hilly can make the Tamura. Oh, says the Gemara. So what's your Shaila? What's your Shaila? Might come boiling. Ibasa Magdish as Lina, Ibasa Mischapa as Lina, Pshita. The Basa Mischapa as Lina. Lina Tamura, you're going to go after the Mischapa, the one who needs it. Dam Rabavo, Rabbi Yochanan, Hamagdish Moisef Chaimish. The Magdish, if you want to be paid it, I would have to add a fifth to the Karen. The Hamaschaper, in this case Hillel, Oisa but Tamura. Good. Another example, Vatori Mishalaya Shalchaveroi. I do Hillel a favor, I go ahead and I separate it from his crops, Truma on my crops. I take off his stuff. Toivus and Ashaloy, I get the right to give it to whichever Kohen I want. Let's have I can give it to Chaim Lax, I can give it to Ari, I can give it to Shalom Kagan. So, says Gemara. Says the oilam pshitale the basa mischapa. Loilam, guys, it's pashut. You go after the mischapa. In other words, in this case, he can make the tamura. V'hachi kami boile. That's not the shaila. V'hachi kami ulei. Achev koanim kfi usla mischapre by dilma bekufya mischapre. The shaila is whether the kahanim the idea bikfias, and therefore it's the carbon of a shutfin, and you can't make it, or it's there like it floats, it's ancillary, and it's am the yachid, the only game in town, and you could. How do you view the kahanim's action in this? How do you view? Do you view them as viable partners in this carbon, or do you view them as kind of the loss of kufya means this float? They're floating on my back, but it's really my carbon. If it's bikfias that they're partners, then you can't make a tamura because the carbon of a shutfis can't make a tamura. If you hold, however, they're floating on my back, it's the carbon of a yachid. The carbon of a yachid could make a tamura. So it wasn't the shaila was basam magdish basam mischapin. No, you made a mistake. That's not the shaila. The shaila is whether it's mamish a full-fledged carbon yachid or it's the carbon of a shutfin. That's all. That's it. And even if you're going to say that, Mendy say, "Oh, I'm not bringing it only for what from the Kohen Gadol. I'm bringing it for the other ones," but their coming in floats in. It's not like full-fledged ownership. In other words, they're hanging on to his coattails, but they're not really honest. Look at Rashi, guys. Look at Rashi. B'kfiyusay mischape. Go down a little bit. B'kfiyusay mischape kishar hamischaprim, like all other mechaprim. Shefrishu acherim aleihem shehiknu lehem abehem lekapara. They're makted the behemoth for the kapara. Afkan niknu lehem chelik boy. Vavlechates ashutfin linyan tamura. Guys, who owns the carbon? Kohen Gadol, right? Who's he bringing it for? Himself and Stola Kahanim, right? So he's makta to them rights in it, right? But that's a full-fledged kinyan. That full-fledged makta makes it a shutfis. Memela can make a tamura. Because again, what's the rule? Carbon of a tamura, no go. Dilma bikufya mischapre. Or maybe what? It floats in, Kleimar. Ain't kaparasan kivua. Boy, there's no like. Not the kahanim kaiveya in the part of the Kohen Gadol. Ella sofa al gav kaparas Kohen Gadol. It's floating on the what? On the kapar of the Kohen Gadol. Kidavrat saf al pnei, like something that floats on the water, but it's not really there. Veina carbon nikra al shmam. Guys, we don't call it the Kohen. We don't call it the power of the kahanim. We call it the power of Kohen. No, power of Kohen Gadol, right? Kohen Gadol. The carbon yachid who. Right? The carbon yachid and Memela, you could make it more. Very geshmak. That's the shayla.
In his prayer report, the Yeratzim, he says before, he says for me and the Kohen.
Right, yeah.
So he's basically saying with his words that it's not just for me. I mean, he's explicit about that.
They clearly are getting a kapara. The question is, how do you view that kapara? They own rights of a kapara, or it's, he's schlepping them along. That's really what.
Right.
Not enough for a shutfis. Not. You're right. Again, if you're schlepping them along, you don't. The lashon of kinyan, you don't own anything. Shutfis, you have to own something. So if they're bikvias, they own the kapara. If it's floating in, meaning it does the kapara for them, but not al yedei kinyan. It's like, so therefore, it's not, of course they're getting something from an avrami, but it's not shot that we'd call it a shutfis in the animal that would stop him from making a tamura. The ownership is the kohen's, and he's schlepping them along. So again, just to reiterate, what are we doing over here? We began to share, guys. We began to share. Let's go. We'll get some ideas. We began to share with what? With the following shaila. If a kohen gadol goes ahead, he shechts his par. The guy is stirring the blood on the fourth raven. Remember, he's got to do the ketores all before he's doing the whole ketores before he's going to bring the par, right? And now he dies. Do you have to go ahead and bring a new one? That was predicated upon initially whether you hold the dam or par. Well, you need a new par or not. That was the machlokes. Now, we're Sefreg Gemara Kashet. The Gemara now goes into a mamish kachim lamdas from Masechta Tmura. What kind of shaila do you have over here? Forget par, nishta par, nishta. If the guy's dead, once the kohen gadol is dead, it's chata shemesa ba'aleha. And for the Gemara, a grace of chiddush. It's what we'll view the par as the par of a tzibur. Once it's the par of a tzibur, right? Then what? Then the whole din of the chamesh chades, the halach we seen was stated by the korban of a yochid. Now that it's the korban of a tzibur, we had a problem. We couldn't find anyone who said it's the korban of a tzibur, right? We tried this and that, and the next thing failed. But we did end up saying the possibility is another possibility over here. It's the korban of shutfin, right? Because the kanim are getting a piece of the action, right? Why was that raya? You can't make a tmura out of whether you can make a tmura out of the par of you can create a tmura using the par. If it's the par is a yachid, clearly you can make a tmura. If you can't, or reversely, if you can't make a tmura, it must be because it's shutfin, and that's where we're holding right now. Good, that's what we're holding right now. Tashma. Now, this is a difficult brisa, so halka. Chaymer bizevach mivitmura. There's a chumrah of all kachim passed over tmura. The chaymer bitmura mibizevach, and there's a chumrah of tmura over zevach. What's the chaymer of zevach over tmura? Shazevach noyach biyochid kibet tzibur. The zevach is both yochid and tzibur, but tmura, guys, is what? Not b'tzibur. Next, v'doiches haShabbos satuma, a korban is zevach midoiches Shabbos and tuma. A tmura can never be, guys. Meaning, an animal that got its kedusha machmas tmura can never ever be doiches Shabbos v'tuma ever. It's a shvacha kedusha. It's a shvacha kedusha. You can't even play that. V'oisa tmura, and it can make a tmura, but a tmura can't make another tmura. So, guys, three dinim over here. One, the carbon, it's not by both yachid and its tzibur, but both yachid nachin and its tzibur. Two, it can make it's daicha Shabbos and yantif, and three, it can make a tmura. Mashenkin tmura can't do any of those. Tmura, right, is only by what? By yachid. Tmura can't be daicha Shabbos, and a tmura can't make a tmura. That's the chumrah of the zevach of the tmura. Now, what's the chumrah of tmura of a zevach? Shatmura chala al balmum kavua ve'ena yoytzel lechulin ligozes ulaved. Mashen came bezevach. So there's one chumrah. Listen to this. This is an unbelievable chumrah, guys. If I would go ahead, take an animal that has a mum kavua, and say this animal's kachim, it'd be kaddi kedushas damim, but you can never bring it wild as a korban. And no, you paid it. Oh. It's kedushas damim. And after you paid it, it's chulin and gansen. In other words, there's no remnant of kedusha whatsoever. It's mamish. Go ahead and take an animal that's a balmum, take a korban and say zu kizu. It's chal, and not only is it chal, you can't be paida, and any gaze, any sharings from it would be asa bahana. Any cholov that comes from it, asa bahana. Any wool that comes from it, asa bahana. Mashenken by a zevach, you see, if you're magdish a zevach in that situation, it doesn't count. Good. Now, what zevach are we talking about over here? Which zevach fits, guys, checks these boxes? Yochid b'tzibur, right? It can be either one. It's doicha Shabbos v'yantif, and it can make a temura. Good. Well, let's see. Says the Gemara. Hechidami. Hi zevach hechidami. How is this zevach? This zevach hechidami the zevach. Ilema. If you're going to say the yachid, if you're going to say it's the korban of an individual, midoiche Shabbos v'tuma, ella the tzibur. It must be the speaking of the zevach of a tzibur. So it's going to miyoisa temura. Doesn't make a temura. A tzibur can make a temura. Ella lav. It must be something that's a hybrid. Ella lav the par. It must be the par of Yom Kippur. Doiches Shabbos v'satuma. Yeah. The kavala is why? The kavila is man. The oisa tamura. The carbon yachidu. So the chayri you can be pasha yeshayla that what? That is a carbon yachid. In other words, you check your boxes, right? It's carbon tzibur. It can't be yachid with tzibur. It's got to be what? It can't be tzibur because it can't make a tamura. Now, the Gemara, and for the Gemara, you have no right. I'm Rav Sheshes loy. The Eila shel Aaron. We're speaking about Aaron's aisle, which is an oila. We're speaking about Aaron's aisle as an oila. Check the boxes. An oila, right? It's a carbon of a yachid. Or it's tzibur. It's carbon tzibur. It's carbon tzibur. Doicha Shabbos, yeah. Doicha Tumah, yeah. Right? And can make a tamura. And can make a tamura. Says the Gemara, Eila shel Aaron. Hachinami mistabra. Disal kedaitach the paro. If you can say it's Aaron's par, tamura the par Shabbos. The tumah hu dachya habachol makriv karva. Hatmura schatasi. Tamura schatas lemisas. Guys, look at me. I'm going to try to say this a few times. Halt cup. Here's the half minute of the Gemara. Guys, look at me. Here's the zevach, and here's the tamura. The tamura is parallel to this, meaning. So let's say it's speaking about Aaron's par. So Aaron's par is it's Doicha Shabbos and Doicha Tumah, right? Mashen came mat. The tamura, and what's the third din? It can't make a tamura. Good. This could make a tamura. Good. Now, this is mashma that the tamura, that this is the tamura is going on. This tamura can't be go ahead and be doicha Shabbos v'yontif. The tamura can't be doicha Shabbos v'yontif. Good. Mashenkin b'choyol, you could bring it. It's a tamura schatas. You can't bring a tamura schatas. His par is what is a chatas. So if you're telling me that tamura over here is the opposite of his carbon over here, if you're speaking about Bishleim, you're speaking about an oila, the Eila Shel Aaron, it's an oila, tamura's oila you could bring. But if you're telling me it's speaking about a par, and this is speaking about tamura, the tamura of a chatas you can never bring, b'choil. Let's see it inside. Hachanami mistaber that's speaking about Aaron's carbon, which is an oila. Disal kedaitach, if you're going to think that paroi, it's speaking about his par, which is a chatas, you'd say the following: tamura, the par Shabbos v'tumah hudloi dachya. The tamura of a par of Shabbos and tumah you're not doicha. Habachoil makrav karva, but you bring it during the week. Hatamura chatasi. It's a tamura chatas. With tamura chatas lemisas. It's one of the five that dies. So says the one. No, you have no right. It's speaking about his par. When it said tamura, it just meant the name tamura. It didn't mean the tamura of this particular animal. It meant tamura in general. My tamura, shame tamura. It just meant the shame tamura. That what? The zevach could be brought on Shabbos. It can be doicha tumah. The tamura can never be. But again, not to say that it's tamura of a par. Yihachi zevach nami shame zevach. Why do you say it's a particular animal par or it's an oila? Why don't you just say it's a shame zevach? Says Gemara, memai miditani chayme. You can't say that. A zevach like a tani. Shame zevach like a tani. Memai miditani chayme betamura shera tamura chala al balmum kavua ben yotzei chulun the gazilova. The chumra was it's chala al balmum. Bisak adaydach my zevach shame zevach. You tell me that what? That a zevach shame zevach that there's no zevach can be chala al balmum. What about bechor ma'isa? Guys, the bechor is born. It has a mum. It's a bechor. Ma'isa behemi. You put it in a corral. It comes out 10th one. If it's a balmum, it's a mum. So you wanted to say that tamura is unique. That what? So you can't say it's speaking about shem zevach. It must be speaking about a particular carbon. Because if it's shem zevach, your statement's not a true statement. Yes. Because among the shem zevach, you have animals that are koiveya, even though they're balmunim. Right? It says the Gemara, b'chor ma'isa the cholon of balmum kavua, and yotzim l'chol ligazes. Ulavit. Why do you have to say shem zevach like a tani? Umayshna tamura. What's the difference, guys? By tamura, you said shem tamura, right? And by zevach, you said it's a particular animal. You said it's the ale of Aaron. Says the Gemara, by tamura, shem tamura achasi, right? By shem tamura, it's all one and the same. They're all one and the same. Every tamura can be chalvat on a balmum. Zevach, ikka bechor, ikka maisa. By zevach, what? There is a bechor and there's maisa, which would be chal. And therefore we can learn shem zevach, and therefore we learn what? Eila Shel Aaron. Very hard Gemara, I'm sorry.